there comes a time when we have to relook those interventions, to reform those interventions, and with the hope of strengthening those going forward to be able to contribute not only to the national development, but also to respond to the changes in global societies and economies. And to the extent that that is the case, the Human Resource Development Program seeks to unleash that potential among Barbadians across a number of spectrums. Of course, the central focus in this case is among public sector employees, but it is not indeed limited to public sector employees. It is in fact extended to all Barbadians. The program, from my advice, has been going exceedingly well. The ministries and departments have been meeting their targets. Indeed, we've designed that program similar to how we did the HIV/AIDS program with the World Bank. It is cross-sectoral, interdisciplinary, and reaches almost every segment of endeavor across the services provided in Barbados. And those ministries and departments have been meeting their targets, have designed a very integrated program that seeks to address a number of issues in relation to skills building, the expansion of knowledge, the integration of different types of skills across applications within service and beyond, and of course to chart a new platform for emerging areas within our economy. Ambassador spoke quite eloquently and accurately about some of those new areas. The green technologies, of course, the alternative energy that we have been pursuing so vigorously in the last few years, and which has now taken firm root in Barbados.
With us.
Yes.
Yes.
With the EU. That's true. With the EU. A very kind assistance from the EU as well. We also, of course, are dealing with new technologies in the cultural industries, of course, the film industry, again, which we have done with the Commission as well, support from the Commission, and other areas that will contribute to the overall development of Barbados' economy. And to the extent that that is the case, we believe that this support gives further impetus to us moving forward and completing that process, at least the first phase of that process, because of course, as you know, and as we often say, education, learning and knowledge gathering and skills development never really has an end. It just continues and continues. So this is really just another phase, but it is an important phase and a very critical phase in the development of Barbados. And why is it so ultimately important? Because it prepares not only those persons who are currently in the workforce, but those persons who have the potential to be in the workforce to contribute to Barbados' development. Our unemployment rate is at an unacceptably high level of 12.3%, I believe, at the latest figures, and that is a direct response or a direct consequence of the economic challenges that we've been facing. Well, we expect, as we are beginning to see now, that those challenges will recede, and as the Barbados economy rebounds and gets stronger going forward, as the macro stability locks in, as the ambassador has been saying, whilst we pursue the fiscal reforms, the macroeconomic reforms, and of course the administrative reforms across the system, whether it is in budgeting, whether it is in the state-owned enterprises, whether it is in procurement, or indeed in a general reform of our economy in terms of the rail sector, in sugar and agriculture, in tourism, in international business, and the others. That a new cadre or better trained cadre of workers will be needed in terms of the skills that are going to be required to drive that new economy. And so to the extent that this project, this program contributes to preparing us for that eventual upswing, which we are beginning to see emerging now, means that it is ultimately one of the most important aspects of the economic reform process in Barbados. And so I I want to thank Ambassador and his team for the continued patience and support. We know it is not always easy in this environment to be able to continue to make resources available to other countries when some of your own territories are having their challenges. But it shows the level of commitment, the level of recognition of the need to support your colleagues around the world from the European Union and the Commission itself.
Impression that the reform progress launched by the government is beginning to show results. Of course, stability is something you have to work on for a while when you're in a crisis situation. But we believe that results are forthcoming now. Enough for us to say that we can certify to the macroeconomic, the eligibility criteria of macroeconomic stability, which is necessary for releasing budget support funds. And the issue that I was referring to in December last year was that we had, before we released the next tranche, to make sure that we were on the right track. I believe that enough progress has been made to say that both the public finance management and the macroeconomic stability is in order for us to make this release now, to release the next tranche now. But it also means that we are going to make this assessment for every single tranche. So we are going to continue at the end of the year, hopefully there'll be another tranche. And again, we're going to make this assessment. This is what we call the political dialogue. We need to be assured by the government that reforms are working in order to meet with our eligibility criteria. But on the other hand, and that's an important point, we also think that the support we provide will actually help the government to achieve its macroeconomic support, macroeconomic reforms. So if we see results are forthcoming, we expect more results will be forthcoming next time. We're not out of the woods, but we're making progress.
You said before the end of the year. When would the next installment be approximately?
We have in the second half of this year the possibility of releasing another tranche, provided the payment credits are forthcoming. And that's something we will look at during the summer to see what the situation is like, just like we did in January this year.
Just one follow-up from me. The fact that the money is being paid directly into what we call the Consolidated Fund, despite the stipulations of the HRDP, is that a concession that Minister Sinckler has a free hand in terms of how he utilizes, or how the government moves in terms of utilizing those funds, in terms of budget support?
The short answer is no.
But he knows better than me. He's just trying to be facetious.
The question that
the slightly longer answer is that, as I mentioned now, there are eligibility criteria for any budget support. But then we also have, for some of the tranches, some more specific indicators within the sector that has to be fulfilled. And my colleagues can perhaps, if you need to know more about the details, tell you about that later. But these indicators, they will measure whether specific progress has been made within human resource development.
Correct.
And if they are not met, our tranches will be reduced proportionally. So in other words, our budget support is result-oriented. That's a very important point. And I think the Honourable Minister probably appreciates that.
No, it's
because what he wants is results. What we want is results. So for me, that's a win-win situation.
Correct. And it is appropriately done. And of course, I know that Mr. Thorne knows that very well. Still ask a question nonetheless. That these programs are also co-financed. In other words, the government of Barbados equally has to, well not equally, but the government of Barbados has as well to make resources available for the implementation of other aspects, some aspects of the program. And all of these are factored into the estimates of revenue and expenditure. Indeed, as you will hear next week, or you might have seen from the release from the Ministry of Finance on the 2015-16 estimates, you will see a number of allocations in there specific to the HRD program. So they're factored into the estimates and therefore appropriated by Parliament for spending. So these resources are earmarked. So I'm sorry to disappoint you, Peter, if CBC was looking for some money out of this to run their operations. That would not be possible.
Good.
You equally have to pay attention to, which is of course the overall mantra of the Barbados economy, that is the stability of the exchange rate. And as you know, we have a fixed exchange rate peg, and that is like the holy grail around here, as it well ought to be, because that's the appropriate policy for an economy of our size, openness and vulnerability. And as such, you have to do the policies which will defend that currency peg. And having a tight fiscal policy, having a debt level that is manageable, and then growing your economy through the foreign exchange earning sectors, so that you have adequate levels of reserves to defend the domestic currency. It's absolutely important. So, you know, the third plank is to ensure that we get the level of economic growth that we want, but not just economic growth in terms of a statistic. We want to have economic growth that is sustainable, that is driven by foreign exchange earning activities, that can contribute to expanding your GDP in a way that provides sustainable jobs, so people can not only get more jobs, but can get higher salaries. Economic growth that is based on increased productivity. Those are the things which the growth and development strategy that has been produced by the government, and of course so brilliantly authored by these gentlemen and their colleagues in the service, is all about. So the estimates, this process that we're in, and the upcoming estimates, as is the case with this current financial year, will continue to set those as the central targets for us, the central objectives within which the targets are established for us to meet going forward. From time to time you will have setbacks, but it is not so much what happens at the, during the journey. It is how you pick yourself up, make the necessary reforms, and of course at the end of the destination, when you get to your destination, that you achieve the targets that you wanted to achieve. So I think that we are beginning to see it was a relatively slow start, because it's never really easy to do adjustment of this nature. But the fact that we have been able to reduce our fiscal deficit in a single fiscal year by over 4.5% of GDP, almost 5%, I believe, when the final numbers they're now putting them together, it will probably be around 5% of GDP. When you're able to move from a primary deficit of over $200 million to, I expect, a primary surplus of just about $20 or $25 million. That's a massive achievement in any economy, big, small, or in between. And it means that we are beginning to do and achieve the things that we need to achieve. When we see that there is a upswing in the tourism sector, that international business is settling down, that we're having increased levels of output in agriculture, non-sugar agriculture in particular, over the last year, as reported by the Ministry of Agriculture and the BAS itself, then it means that your other real economic sectors are beginning to show signs of some revival and turning the corner. As the ambassador quite correctly said, we're not anywhere near out of the woods. We still have challenges. It is now it's public knowledge, and we don't hide it. It is known that we have cash flow challenges within the government from time to time. Some periods it can be more acute than others. We're beginning to see some of that ease in the last couple of months, but we're not there yet. So the effort has to continue. And behind that effort is the type of reforms which both the ambassador and myself have been speaking about to the economy. Reforms in the state-owned enterprises, reforms in the budget management system, reforms in the tax collection system, which we're looking at, of course, the establishment of the BRA and the reforms we're going to do coming out of the tax study done by the International Monetary Fund during the course of this financial year, the passage of the procurement bill, which we hope to be done before summer, certainly before July, and I know that the bill is now ready to go to Parliament. So those are the things that we have to continue doing to make this economy more efficient and proficient, to reduce the costs and to increase the gains. So those are the things that you will hear discussed next week as I speak, and of course as other members of the government present the case of the administration. But you know, it is hard. It is sometimes slow, grinding work, but it can be rewarding if you stick to the plan and the achievements begin to be registered one by one.
Could you give us an update on the tax refund situation considering that next month is
I spoke to that a few days ago at the nation, so it's makes sense repeating that again.
How difficult or easy was it, bearing in mind it was from December to now to meet the second qualification, and what were the key areas that convinced the EU to meet
But all of the areas that I just spoke about, that we continue to make progress on our fiscal consolidation program, that we continue to work on the public financial management reform process, which the division and the commission has been working on, which is a pretty big project that we've worked on. We're also working on debt management, debt reform. The cabinet has just considered and approved the Commonwealth Secretariat's comprehensive debt reform process that we've been doing with them, with the IMF and the World Bank. We're looking at consolidating or debt laws, because we have a number of them around the place, and we're looking to bring them together to make them more consistent with each other in terms of reporting, so that people know what debts the government has and what it is planning to incur, debt forecasting, and publishing that information, so that from time to time people know over the course of a 2, 3, 4, 5 year period what debts the government may be looking or contemplating to be contracting in the name of the public. All of these are things that really never took place in Barbados, in Barbados' economy, and we're doing these reforms. And you know, it is a shock to the system because it makes people look and work differently, and it is not easy, because if you have 40, 50 years of operating in a particular way, and then somebody rattles the cage, it can be a little offsetting. But I think that the public servants, I think that the political servants are buying in to the need to have these things, because Barbados wants to be a modern economy. We want to be able to demonstrate to the world that we do take our business very seriously, and the only way you can do that is to put the things in place that show demonstrably that you are indeed serious about doing these things. And